How would you encourage people to convince young people, people who think they've seen it all, to not use that as an excuse to remain comfortable? Like, well, the Ice Age happened, or this or that. I see people using that as a shield to not actually get out there and do something. How can we inspire people knowing what you just said?
Can you rephrase that? Can you say that?
Well, there's a subset of people that will use an excuse to not shoulder responsibility and to not take action. You know, the ice ages were there. We're going to experience something again. Great extinctions have happened. It's happening again. So what? And it doesn't get them off their hiney to take action. So,
if you take, that would be one way to give yourself a comforting point of view, engaging with long-scale time and the long-term viability of nature. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that people use that as an excuse
Yes,
to
yeah.
not be graceful.
Yeah, you might use it as an excuse. So, you know, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. You got to have some class. And you have to take, as has been said by European ethicists, ethics people in recent decades, is you do have a responsibility to the problems that show up on your doorstep, if nothing else. You may not want to take on everything in the universe, but if something is on your doorstep, it's yours to deal with. And what is happening to the planet right now is on our doorstep. We all have to think of it as on our doorstep, even as we also realize it's our job to take care of it, or it doesn't get taken care of. But if we can at the same time also realize we're not dragging nature down. It will survive, totally regardless of whatever we do. It's for ourselves that we do this in a certain way, not because the land is sacred. Is that we need to be aware of what we're doing and who we are, almost as an aesthetic exercise. Charles Sanders Peirce was C.S. Peirce, one of America's really great philosophers who few people remember at the moment, was the one who made the point that ethics and aesthetics are almost the same thing. Beauty and proper behavior. Interesting thought, huh? It's also very Chinese.
Can you say a little more about that, sort of weaving in nature, art, and activism?
Nature, art, and activism. I'm going to make that a little more simple for a moment and say activism has many different mansions and many routes of possibility. And some of them are, of course, demonstrating in the streets. Another is working in the courts and working with lawyers and launching suits and cases. And another is art, which is often overlooked, or overlooked often by a certain class of environmentalists because they're all post-Enlightenment rationalists who have gone to college. And art was not part of the curriculum when they went to school. So they are not, there's not an intersection, not quite enough intersection between what can happen in the arts and what can happen, which is to say, transforming human consciousness, even if it's for the space of time that's in a single room, or, go into the Right Art exhibit and look at some of the paintings and see what people saw, see what they observed and what they were able to make a connection with. So all of the arts, graphic arts, literary arts, music, architecture, all speak to these things. And if you refine yourself, if you refine your thinking in regard to it, you can have some useful and intelligent judgments to make on architecture, or on highway engineering, or on symphonies and ballet. Look for what is going in the direction of creating what nature is and what nature can do, or reflecting it, or manifesting it in some way. That's why I wrote my long book-length poem called Mountains and Rivers Without End, my most recent really stressful undertaking, was because I was wondering if it is not possible to some degree to make a representation of the physical landscape. And found that to do that I would have to range through a lot of mythology and a lot of history and a lot of ecology, but that was still my goal.
Yeah. I became a bit of a fan of Robinson Jeffers and his poetry, and it makes you want to, of course, go down to Big Sur, and was struck, as I'm sure a number of you are, of the elegance of the bridges along the highway and how they blend in with the forms of the lands.
Those bridges. You know, I never thought about that. Somebody had a good idea when they did those bridges, and they must have been reading Jeffers.
And I think the land affected their design.
Yeah.
As well.
Might we hope for some involvement by you with your former neighbor, Jerry Brown, on the Arts Commission, or as a UC Regent, or advising John Laird?
No, you might not. I'm going to leave Jerry Brown. I'm going to leave Jerry Brown alone for a little while. Let him, stew in his own juices.
Did you have a particular? Do you feel like you had a particular effect in Jerry's previous two terms and some of your ideas?
Oh, yeah, some little tiny effect maybe, but Jerry is an interesting man. As you might have noticed during his campaign, he didn't over-prepare. That alone tells you something. And he spoke frankly. And that's partly the influence of his wife. She's a wonderful woman. It's too bad he waited so long to get married.